Hello, Dr. Youssef. How are you?
Hi, Douglas. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I got a real kick out of the title of your book, The Brazilian Butt Lift. When I first saw that, I thought it was a new kind of a dance, but it's actually a cosmetic surgery procedure, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Actually, a very popular cosmetic procedure.
How did it get that name? Was this something that originated in Brazil?
Yes, actually, one of the pioneers, Dr. Pitangui, who was considered one of the pioneers of fat transfer and harvesting and transferring fat from one part of the body to the other, actually pioneered this. So it actually started to become more popular in Brazil before it made its way to the United States.
This is a procedure where you basically take fat from one place and put it somewhere else?
Correct. So there's lots of different places you can put fat, but essentially they all have the same combination of treatments, which is it starts as a liposuction, which is harvesting and removing fat from one part of the body. And then it actually, you take that fat and you process it, concentrate it, and then you transfer it into another part. And in this particular procedure, we're transferring it to the buttocks, but you can also use it to augment flatness in the cheeks. For example, you can do it for facial fat transfer. You can transfer it into indented scars or places where people have had trauma, where they have an indentation or a hollowness. So you can really kind of put it in multiple different areas. But I would say the most popular two areas are the buttocks and also for in the face.
Okay. So if you were to take fat from somebody's butt and put it in their face, is that how you would normally do it? I mean, where do you
No,
take the
sorry.
fat from?
So the fat is usually transferred to the buttocks and to the face, but the typical harvesting areas where we remove it from, the most popular areas are abdomen, love handles, inner and outer thighs,
Oh,
sometimes.
I see. Okay.
So we're generally removing it from unwanted bulges of fat around the stomach area and the love handles, which nobody loves. And then we transfer them to the buttocks. The reason why, even if you have a large buttocks, the reason why you don't want to necessarily take from there is because the area you take from gets flatter. So a flatter stomach is generally desirable, but a flatter buttocks is not usually desirable. So it's not a great place to harvest fat from.
Oh, I see. Okay. Realistically, when you mentioned liposuction, realistically, how much can be taken from the stomach? I mean, people have, I think, wild expectations of going in, and they think if they're, extremely overweight, like 50 pounds overweight or something, that they think you're just going to suck it all out, and all of a sudden they're going to be svelte and slim, and that's not really true, is it?
Not true at all, actually. In fact, Douglas, the 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 safe amount to remove in an outpatient setting is about 5 liters of fat. And if you're 50 to 60 pounds overweight, that's not going to be ideally a noticeable difference for you. So people who are best candidates for not only this particular procedure, but for any liposuction procedure, are people who are minimally or slightly overweight but have stubborn bulges that don't go away with diet and exercise. So liposuction is used more as a sculpting device than as a weight loss device. If you're 50 or 75 pounds overweight, you're really looking at a completely different type of procedure. You're looking at a gastric bypass procedure or some sort of balloon procedure that causes you to lose weight in your whole body. Whereas liposuction is just extracting stubborn bulges in small amounts. And like I said, 5 liters is really about the maximum you can remove from a typical patient safely in an outpatient setting.
Okay, you do it in an outpatient. How painful is it? On a scale of 1 to 10, would you think?
Most people will wake up the next day and say it's about a 4 or a 5. It's almost like you did way too many sit-ups in the gym the day before,
Yeah, oh, okay.
or
That's a good way
it
to,
feels like someone punched you in the stomach. And then the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm really sore, and I think I did 100 sit-ups too many yesterday. That's about what it feels like the next day. But usually by day 4 or 5, it's probably about a 2 or a 3. And by the time you're at 1 week out, day 7, it's probably about a 1 or a 2. And most people can walk around the block pretty easily 1 week after this procedure and feel pretty normal.
So it wouldn't be as, I've never had liposuction, but I did have my appendix out fairly recently. Would it be as painful as that or not as painful?
I would say it's similar. I would say it's similar. I'm guessing at about a week. Did you have it done laparoscopically through a little camera? Or
Nah, they did it the old fashioned way. They cut me open.
okay, old fashioned takes a little bit longer to heal, but I'm assuming even with the bigger cut and the old fashioned way, by 7 or 8 days, you felt pretty good where you could do some work and do your normal activities. And yeah, you still felt pain. You probably had a lot of muscle soreness in the right lower quadrant. But I'm assuming that you were able to do most of the things you typically could do at about a week.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, the first 2 days I didn't move, and then after the third day I started getting up and walking and stuff. So yeah, that's about right. Are most of your clients women, or do you have a lot of men that come in?
We have about 90% of our patients are women and about 10% are men. And I know that sounds very skewed, but you have to remember, Douglas, when I started 16 years ago, only 3% of our patients were men. So even though our male patients are only about 10% now, that's a threefold increase in 16 years. So even though our majority of our patients are women, I think men are slowly catching on to the trend that you can use cosmetic surgery to kind of tweak your body into the way you want it to look. And I think men are catching on pretty quickly.
What's the most common procedure the men are coming in for?
Men typically start with non-invasive procedures that, such as Botox, hair removal in unwanted areas, and the
Oh,
most
okay.
popular surgical procedure is definitely liposuction. So I would say men gravitate towards those three procedures the most.
Unwanted hair removal. Where would one not want hair? On their back?
Correct. So most men who are unhappy with unwanted hair, it's usually their back, sometimes the back of their neck. Sometimes they get a lot of ingrown hairs in the lower front of their neck because of the shaving area, so they just want to remove. Some men have hair that grows straight down from their chin all the way through to their chest, and there's no separation. So they need a little bit of hair removal to kind of decrease the irritation and razor burn around the collar. Um, those are the most common areas, but I'd say the back is the most common.
What about the unibrow? Do you get those at all?
Unibrow is pretty popular area as well. It's a little tricky with hair removal because you have to have a certain type of laser that can get into smaller areas, but for sure we could do that, and also around the ears as well.
Oh, okay. I noticed as I'm getting older, hair is starting to pop up in places that I never had it before. Uh,
Yes, especially around the ears.
yeah. So your book, The Brazilian Butt Lift, The Art of the Brazilian Butt Lift. What does the book basically cover? I assume it doesn't cover the procedure in great detail, or does it?
It actually does both. So it takes you through a journey of where the procedure originated, and then it takes you on a journey of how did this procedure become popular in the United States? What trends caused it to be popular? What celebrities brought it to the attention of America? How did the music and rap industry affect the way we
Oh,
perceive this procedure?
okay.
So it takes you through everything from Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back, all the way to the more recent songs that kind of glorify and exemplify this procedure and make it popular. And then it talks about celebrities like Nicki Minaj, Kim Kardashian, right, Beyonce.
Yeah.
So how did the modeling and magazines influence how we look at women's bodies, and what used to be an acceptable shape, and now what is the more current desirable shape, and where did these trends come from? And then, of course, the second half of the book talks about how the procedure is done in not too technical a detail, but enough to give you an idea of how we do it. And of course, the risks and the benefits, and the recovery of the procedure. And it walks you through the whole procedure from beginning to end if you're interested in doing the procedure. So a lot of it is historical, and some of it is technical, but it's a great story. The book takes you on a fun journey on where all of this fun started from.
Well, it is interesting how the perception of beauty, or what is considered beautiful, has changed so much over the years and the centuries. If you look at, during the Renaissance, there were these rather large women
Correct.
that were considered the most beautiful. And then gradually it seemed like people just got skinnier and skinnier to the point where, the twig, the stick, that look. And now, more recently, it's the large buttocks seems to be very, very popular. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that's a very good assessment. We do talk about that in the book, how the trends changed. And yes, in the 70s and 80s, and even the early 90s, very thin models with very low body fat were kind of the desirable look in magazines and in media. And now it's trending back towards more curvy, more hourglass, wider hips, etc. So you're 100% correct in that. And the trend is dramatically shifted.
Do you want to, we got to kind of wrap this up. Do you want to give out the approximate cost for this procedure, or?
Of course. An average procedure like this costs anywhere from about $8,000 to $10,000, depending on how many areas we have to harvest, and that includes the anesthesia, all the visits, the liposuction, and the fat transfer, all the garments, and everything. So it's about an $8,000 to $10,000 procedure. The book walks you through it, The Art of the Brazilian Butt Lift. It's easily found on Amazon. It's about a $10 book. It's a fun read, even if you're not interested in the procedure. If you're just interested in the history of how this trend came about, I think it's a fun read for that as well.
Okay. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yes. Our website is uniquecosmeticsurgery.com, and Younique is spelled Younique. So uniquecosmeticsurgery.com. And we're located in Santa Monica, California, but we have patients who come from all over the country to see us for this procedure and other procedures, and we have a lot of international patients as well. So we welcome patients from anywhere.
Is Los Angeles the cosmetic surgery capital of the world? Is that true?
I would say yes. Los Angeles, and particularly our area, the Beverly Hills, Santa Monica area, is like the mecca of cosmetic surgery. So this is where the magic happens most of the time.
That's great. Dr. Youssef, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Very informative. Best of luck with your book and your practice. I hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you, Douglas. It was a pleasure being on your show.